Hey everyone. For those of you that I've met before or worked with, it's great to see you again. However, many of you may be new to the Marion community, and I want to officially welcome you and introduce myself as well. Before I get to that, just want to do a brief run through of what this presentation is. So the College 101 presentation is the very basic introductory level information for the college search process. What we're going to run through during this is a quick timeline, freshman to senior year, of steps that you can be taking both as a parent or as a student to make sure that when it comes time to the actual college search process towards the end of your high school career, in your junior and senior year, that you've done steps previous that make it much easier and less stressful for you. Talk a little bit about the ACT, answer some questions, address some myths about the college process and the ACT, and then also I'll give off some tips and tricks that I've learned during my experiences. So I'm gonna turn off my video here so you can see the full slide. These slides will be available without the recording over the top of it. If you would like, just let me know and I'm happy to send those to you. So as I mentioned, I do want to introduce myself for those of you that are new to the Marion community. Again, my name is Ben Asher. I am the college counselor here at Marion. My focus is only on the college search process. So in 2015, I started my career in college admissions as an admissions counselor at Midland University before I moved out to the Buffalo, New York area, where I became the director of enrollment at Niagara University, and then moved back to Omaha and became director of enrollment at the College of St. Mary. Other important experiences during that time, though, previous to all of that, I was in the United States Navy from 2009 to 2015, and then both of while I was in college admissions, I was also working in baseball programs. So I have experience in college athletics, both at the NAI and the NCAA Division I level. Those are important experiences because whether your daughter is going to college to be a student, or if she wants to be an athlete, or if she's thinking about a career in the military or wants to join ROTC, those are experiences that I have, and I'm happy to give guidance, my experiences on those, and help your family if there's any questions that you may have. Most importantly, the number one thing I want you to take away from this presentation is that our student services department is here to help. While I focus solely on the college search process, your daughter has a designated counselor who does much more than just the college search process. Mental health counseling, grief counseling, class schedules, anything, you name it, they are there to help your daughter through whatever the situation might be. It's broken up by alphabet. Mr. Whistler has students A through G, Ms. Sparwasser, H through N, and our new counselor starting this year, O through Z. They are the most important people for your daughter while they're here at Marion. They are here to help in any way that they can. And they just because I am a college counselor does not mean that they are excluded from that process. They are still there to help and give guidance and even give their input. Ms. Tresek is our learning services coordinator. I have worked with her regularly on helping students who may have some type an AEP or a 504 plan that they what that will look like for them in college. But she is a tremendous help for our students at Marion. So please stop in, see her, meet her. She is awesome. Mrs. Smith is our registrar. I tell you, I say it kind of jokingly, but serious in all manners. She does everything. She has the answer to all of the questions. And if she doesn't have the answer, she knows exactly where to go to get them. Anytime I have a question, she is one of the first people I go to. So please, students, if you have not met her, stop in, say hello, introduce yourself, and she will remember you. She is truly amazing. And Miss Kristen, our assistant principal, and she is in charge of the student services department. Her office is down in student services as well. She is also a tremendous resource, and she is Awesome. So please stop in, say hello to all of us. And that is actually my first tip to you. For those of you that are just starting your freshman year, meet your counselor, get to know them, seek their advice. This is an important stage. You do not want to wait until you're a sophomore or a junior to meet your counselor for the first time, especially if you have aspirations for a particular school. If you're thinking like an Ivy League or something like that, there are some classes and things that we may want to make sure you're doing fairly early to make sure that your sequencing of courses is right. So when you get to your senior year, you're hitting all of the criteria that that college is going to want to see. These are important people in your life that are here to help. Don't waste time and not meet them. Come in, say hello, even if it's just to say hello. Come in, introduce yourself so they know who you are. Develop strong study skills. There is a myth out there that says freshman year doesn't really matter to colleges. I'm going to tell you very forward that it does matter. Okay, freshman grades matter. This is because when you're a senior in your first semester is when you're going to start applying to colleges, which means your grades for your senior year will not be ready when you apply to colleges. So that first semester of your senior year isn't really even factored into college admissions. It's only the 6 semesters previous, which is freshman, sophomore, junior year. Those are the only completed grades that a college has to decide your college admission on. So do not come in and think, okay, freshman year, I can just have a bad semester, I can get used to it, and then I'll be fine. That's not the case. Yes, you can have a bad semester. Yes, you can have a rough freshman year, but then we need to show focus and progression past that. But you don't want to come in with that mentality. Focus on getting good grades right away. And the easiest way to do that is through developing strong study skills. If you can focus on your study skills now, your grades will get better because of it. Freshman year is also a time where you should really try something new. You're coming into a new school, everything is new. It's okay to get outside of your comfort zone a little bit and try something. Colleges want to see more than just your academics in your application. They want to see if you're involved, what you're doing beyond the classroom. Do you have time management skills to be able to handle that? That's because at college, they have so many activities and things going on. They want students that will contribute to the community, not just in the classroom. So if you can get involved and do something that you like in high school, and you can continue that into college, you're going to be a much more attractive candidate to that college just based on the idea that you've done something different. If it's new to you, you may not love it and you may not do it for the next 4 years. You may try it, you might not like it, and you might leave. That's okay. It's still something you can put on your resume later for your college applications. SCORE is a platform that you will hear much more about. It is everything college search related, but it's also where you will build a resume, not only for colleges, but for future jobs as well. Again, there are certain things like this that I'm not going to dive into a whole lot during this presentation because we go much more in depth into it in College 201. But just start getting used to that term. SCOIR we call it SCORE. Parents, this is a great time. If you haven't started to think about paying for college, this might be the time to just have that in the back of your mind. Don't have to have maybe any set in stone plans quite yet, but it's 4 years down the road. And if we start thinking about it now, you can start planning out how you might and how much you might be able to contribute to this later on. And it's a good time to start having informal conversations about college. Nothing super dramatic, just simple conversations. Hey, maybe even telling them where you went to college and your experiences, what you liked and disliked, what you wish you would have done differently in your search process. Sophomore year is a time where we need to stay focused, maintain our grades, right? As I mentioned before, colleges are only going to see 6 semesters. This is the direct middle of what they're going to see. If you had a bad freshman year, this is the time where we want to see progress. We want to see grades increase. We want to see things get better. It's an easy way to set yourself apart when it comes to college admissions. Maybe you didn't have a great freshman year, but sophomore year, you really kicked it into gear. You did a lot better. And then junior year, you really excelled, got much better. It's obvious based on your grades that you improved. And now you look like a much better candidate versus somebody who didn't change, didn't make any progress from a bad year. Update your resume and SCORE. As I mentioned, you're going to hear that term a lot. In SCORE, you can put in all of your activities. So whenever you join a club, if you get a job, volunteer hours, those can all be recorded in your SCORE profile. And you can actually download that, your resume, to submit for college applications and for jobs. It's important to keep this up to date, because if you don't and you forget about something, it will be left off your resume, and it could have been something the college was looking for. So if we update it regularly, maybe once a semester, you'll be in a much better place. And especially when you're a senior, you don't have to go back and try and remember everything you did. It's already up to date. It's been up to date because you kept it that way. And now all you have to do is download and submit it to your college. Continue to get involved. If you joined something as a freshman and you liked it and you're going to continue doing it, maybe try and take on a leadership role. Again, showing that progression as a student. Hey, I joined something, I did something, and then my second year, I took on a leadership role. I increased my responsibility level within it. And then junior year, I took it even more serious. It just looks really good. And this is also a time we're going to do your sophomore review. We're going to look back at Marion's core values. You're going to set goals as a student on what things that you can do to either improve those core values in yourself, or how you can show a higher level of commitment to them throughout your time at Marion. And those are things that you'll be able to look back on in your junior year and senior year to see, did I accomplish those goals? And if I didn't, what can I do to accomplish them? Parents, if your daughter's never been on a college campus, this might be a cool time, even if it's for an athletic event or just something different, for you to get onto a college campus. Let her experience that. Doesn't have to be an official visit. Just go on campus, walk around. Does she like the feeling? Is it too big? Is it too small? Is it too far from home? What does she dislike about it? Just things that you can do to start getting college on her mind. So that way, junior year, it's not a complete shock when we go from nothing to everything college. Things have already started. She started to think about it a little bit. The seeds are kind of already planted in her mind. The college conversation also becomes a little more formal and structured at this point in time. It's okay to start talking about career interests, maybe college desires. How big of a school does she want? Does she want to get away from Nebraska? Does she like being close to home? Those type of things, again, just so they're at the top of her mind and it's not a complete shock next year when college starts to take the forefront of conversations. For junior, senior year, I don't want to say I'm going to breeze through this, but I'm not going to go too far in depth. Again, because in College 201, we do that. And more importantly, this is just introductory to the college process. But junior year is really kind of I would call it the testing year. Both the PSAT and the ACT happen during this time. Both are extremely important tests, which we will talk a little bit about in a couple of slides. It is a time where you still want to strengthen and update your resume. Again, this is your last chance. Junior year would be the last chance if your daughter didn't do anything new, or if you as a student, you haven't done anything new, that you can add something to your resume at this point in time. And again, keeping this up to date, so it's one less thing you have to do next year. Continue your college research through SCORE and through our other platform, College Kickstart. Again, I won't go into too much detail. 201 is a much more in-depth review of what SCORE is and how you can use it in your college search process. And another reminder, colleges only see 6 semesters. So this is the last thing in your junior year that colleges are going to see academically to be able to make a decision for admissions. Do not delay. If you've had any rough semesters or grades in the past 2 years, this is the time where we need to show progress that we've made an instrumental step in our academic career. I will say this. It is extremely unrealistic to think that you're going to visit every school that you are considering in your senior year. Now, if you're only considering one or two colleges when you're a senior, obviously you could visit those in 1 year. But if you're a student that has 4, 5, maybe even 6 or more colleges on your list, it's extremely unrealistic to think that you're going to have time during your senior year to do that. As soon as you're a senior, college applications open. So you've got to do that. You have to write essays. You have to submit resumes. You need to submit applications. You have to do your FAFSA. You have to be a student. You have to be involved in the activities that you're involved with. It's tough to squeeze in college visits and squeeze in enough time to make sure that you actually like those colleges. So junior year is an important time for you to get out and see some of those schools, especially whatever your number one choice is. If you have a top choice at this stage, you want to get on campus and see it, because one or two things is going to happen. You're either going to love it and it's going to remain your top choice and you'll go back as a senior, or you're actually not going to like it. And now you can start to shift your focus to colleges that might actually be a better fit for you. Athletes, artists, this is a time we've got to start thinking about things. So athletes, by junior year, you should be registered with the NCAA or the NAIA if you're thinking Division I or Division II athletics. That is because NCAA will not, you cannot be offered an official scholarship, or you cannot do an official visit unless you're registered with the NCAA. If you're not thinking Division I or Division II and just maybe playing Division III sports or going to a community college, then you don't necessarily have to do that stage. Same with the NAIA, you can actually wait until you're a senior to register with them. But if Division I or Division II is at the top of your mind, you want to do this process sooner than later. And artists, music performers, fine arts, you guys need to start thinking about your portfolio. Again, you don't want to be a senior and get hit with the requirement that you need to submit a portfolio and not have one prepared. If you wait till then, you've delayed your process and you may miss some key deadlines. So thinking about this now, starting to put it together, that way when they do say, hey, we need to see a portfolio, awesome, I have it ready and I'll send it over right away. Parents, conversation becomes much more structured. What are your desirables and what are the non-negotiables? Desirables are the things you want, or the things your daughter wants in a college. The non-negotiables are things that you as a parent need to have at that college for your daughter. Safety measures, maybe it's cost, right? Cost has, there's limits. What can we afford as a family? What's realistic with the career that you want to have? And so you guys need to start having those conversations about what are the desirables and what are the non-negotiables. And it's really, really important that your daughter gets onto some of these campuses. I cannot stress this enough. It is not a good idea to decide on a college without stepping foot on a campus. There are situations where that's just not possible. Maybe the colleges are too far away, they're overseas, whatever the case might be. It is possible that you don't step foot on a campus. However, if you can make it happen, she should really get onto as many college campuses that she's considering as possible. The best way to tell if a college is for your daughter is to get her on campus and let her feel what it feels like to be at that school. Senior year, need to establish an official college list and your desires. The things can still change throughout this time. You'll start applying to colleges. Your FAFSA will become available. There are some big changes coming to the FAFSA this year, things that we don't quite know what it's going to look like, or how it's going to be affected, or how the process of filing is even going to go. We will do a presentation for financial aid coming up last year. I believe it was in sometime in October or September. But I know the date for filing has already been pushed back to December. So I'm not sure when we will run that presentation, but it will come out and we'll make sure all parents and families are invited to that presentation. Tons and tons of scholarships available. There will be many resources for your daughter to get these. I will have essentially a page that is accessible to your daughter when she is a senior for her to apply to them. I also send them out regularly via email, and they're also available through websites and through school links, which I will help with all throughout this process. Again, visit Top Choices. If you're going to retake the ACT, you want to do that early in your senior year. That way you have time to get your results back before you actually submit your application. And then the one date that needs to be out there is May 1st is National College Decision Day. Many colleges set this as their deadline that they need to know if you're attending or not. There's some leeway with that, but again, we'll cover that more with other presentations in College 201. As I mentioned, we'll talk about the ACT. So sequencing is important. It helps prepare students for the actual ACT. So as you can see with the ACT, in the spring of freshman and sophomore year, they take 2 pre-ACTs, the pre-ACT 8-9 as a freshman, the pre-ACT in sophomore year, and then the official ACT as a junior. The PSAT are the pre-tests for the SAT. However, students are not required to take the SAT. SAT is a test that is taken typically on the coasts, while the ACT remains a Midwest and kind of central United States administered exam. But we still have them. The PSAT is optional, and then the PSAT NMSQT, which is the National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test, is taken in fall of junior year. Again, junior year is that year where the big tests happen, both the PSAT and the ACT. And then senior year, nothing is required. However, if a student is going to take the ACT again or attempt the SAT, this is the time that they would do that. Here's a breakdown of the 2 tests. Perfect score for the ACT is 36. 4 categories: English, math, reading, and science. Essay is optional, and 100% of Marian students take the ACT. The SAT, on the other hand, perfect score of 1600. EBRW, or evidence-based reading and writing, and math are the 2 subtests. Essay is optional. Only about 5% of Marian students actually take that. There are 3 ACT prep sessions and regular in-class ACT lessons given to students throughout the year. So these are some questions, maybe some myths about the ACT and college admissions. So I just want to address those. Are schools still test optional? Yes. If you don't know, in 2020, schools, because of the pandemic, went test optional because the ACT was not available. And many schools remained test optional because the results that they had did not affect their academic profile as a school. And so some of them have remained that. There are some that are going back. Purdue recently announced that they were going back to requiring the test. So it's not all schools are test optional. And that goes to my next question is how do I know if they're test optional? You need to dive into the school's policies. They can change. Some schools started off completely test optional, and then some moved to we're test optional, but engineering still requires it. Or we're test optional, but if you want to qualify for our highest scholarship, we would need the ACT or the SAT results. So there are certain things that, certain quirks within their test optional policies that you'll want to dive into. And the best way to do that is to go directly to the school. If my top choice is test optional, why does it matter? Again, could mean scholarship dollars. In most cases, going test optional will not affect your ability to get scholarship money. However, it could eliminate you from specific ones. So those are just things you want to make sure that you're evaluating. Super scoring. This is where it's tough to just explain. It's easier to show, but I'll do my best to explain it. It's when you take an ACT, you'll get your results back and you get an overall score, and then you get subcategory scores for each one. So for the ACT, there's 4 subcategories. Your overall score may be 28, but in math, you may have scored 25. Science, you may have scored a 29. In English, you may have scored a 30, and so on. They take the 4 subscores, combine them, essentially average them out, and you get your overall score. Super scoring is when you take the test multiple times and they take the highest score from each subcategory across all of the times you've taken it, and combine those to give you a new overall. So if you take it once and your overall is a 28, and then a second time you take it and you get a 27, but your individual math score went up, they'll take the individual math score from the second test, put it in place of the math score on the first test, and it may actually increase your overall by a point or two. So super scoring is not something every school does. However, if they do, it's a big recommendation that you would take the test multiple times to increase your overall super score. What's more important, ACT or GPA? I will say this is GPA. Without a shadow of a doubt, the GPA is the most important piece. Again, with schools going test optional, they have started to see that a little bit more. The ACT used to be used as just a way to make a student stand out. How a school can differentiate from student to student. But overall, the GPA is the most important piece. Having been in college admissions, I have admitted students with very poor ACT scores or SAT scores. However, their GPA is extremely high. And on the opposite side, I've had students with a low GPA and a really, really good ACT score, but I don't admit them because their GPA is not what we're looking for. What about the SAT? So the SAT, again, is a test that is not administered. It can be if a student chooses to, but more cases than not, it's a test that is administered on the coasts. And students on the coasts prepare for the SAT, while students in the central United States are preparing for the ACT. How many times should I take it? That is completely up to you. What I would recommend is it depends how you do in comparison with who you are as a student. If you're a very good student and you take it and your score comes back and you're disappointed, then you should take it again. If you are happy with your results and you don't think you need to take it again, then you don't need to. It is a complete choice on how many times you take it. Some students will take it once and be done. Other students will take it multiple times and continue to retake it because they have a score, a goal in mind. Please know, though, that typically from what I've seen, having been in college admissions, after the third time taking it, students' scores typically do not increase by much. The first retake will sometimes see a result anywhere from 1 to 3 points increase. The third time we'll see another increase of maybe 1 to 2 points. But then after that third time, you may see another increase, but it will be very minimal. And more often than not, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and even more times, we're seeing 0 point increase in the ACT. Again, total choice on what you want to do if you want to take it multiple times. Should I be doing more than what is offered at Marian? Absolutely. There are 3 sessions offered. There are regular in-class lessons and reviews for the ACT. However, that is simply not enough if you're looking to score really well on the ACT. You should spend time taking practice ACTs on your own at home. You should spend time studying. This is where those study skills come in. You will have a book that you can use to review ACT type questions. But you need to put time into preparing for the ACT, especially the weeks leading up to it. You should not go into it just kind of winging it. You should spend some time prior to the ACT focusing on categories, especially categories that you're not strong in. If you're not a strong math person, you may want to spend the weeks prior focusing on math so you can make sure that that score is increasing, especially if they're super scoring. Here's some terms to know. I'm not going to run through all of these. Again, this will be available for you, but these are just terms that you may see along the way. Common App, Coalition App, dual enrollment, FAFSA, rolling admission. Here are some other admission plans: early action, restrictive early action, early decision. These are all laid out in their definitions. The most important thing to know here is that early decision is a binding contract. If you apply to a college early decision and you're admitted, that is where you are required to attend. And sometimes those decisions come back without any knowledge of the cost of what it's going to be for you. So if you're admitted, you must attend, and they could hit you with a very large bill without any academic or financial aid. AP and dual enrollment. So there are 18 AP course offerings at Marian. Credit is granted based on the AP test results. Most schools require anywhere from a 3 to a 5. There is a website that you can actually go, and you'll see required scores by school can be found at this website right here. So if you're looking at a certain school, it will tell you, if I took AP psychology, what is the required test to get credit at this particular school? It will tell you on that website. Dual enrollment courses, however, we have 12 UNO courses, 10 with Nebraska Wesleyan and four with Metro. Credit is granted through the college and based on the completion of the course. So this only requires that you get a C or above to be granted college credit. So this is different from the AP. An AP, again, it's required for the test score. So you have to get a certain test result. You can get an A in the class, but score a 2 on the test and get no college credit. Whereas with dual enrollment, if you get a C in the class or above, you're going to get college credit as long as the college that you're attending accepts the credit from those colleges. That is something that you can look into, and I am happy to help you figure out if those colleges will accept those credits. Some tips from me, just for a successful college search. Again, these are things that you need to do much further down the road, but I thought I would throw some of them out there right now. When it comes time, make sure you have an email address. I would make sure that it is appropriate. As a college admissions professional, I've seen some inappropriate email addresses that have popped up, and I would recommend you stay away from those. I would also say you should create one for all things college. That way, whenever you go to a college, you put down that email address, everything goes to that email. Otherwise, if you put it in your school email or your personal email, it's going to overwhelm it and you're going to lose things. Professional and empty voicemail. The number of times I called as a college admissions person trying to get a hold of someone and their voicemail was full, or their email or their voicemail was inappropriate or not professional. It just made me not want to continue to call that student. And it made me want to mark that. We often marked that down in their applications that they were unprofessional, did not respond to phone calls, never replied, things like that. And those definitely can affect college decisions. Checking at the end of the year as a family, have things changed? What do we need to work on? What colleges are at the top, right? These are just things you want to continue to have conversations with pretty much every year, at the end of freshman year, end of sophomore year, end of junior year. Where are we at? What are we thinking? Where's our list at? Have we even developed the list yet? Just things like that. I put visit on there. You must, I cannot stress this enough, try to visit as many colleges that you are considering. This is the most important step in the college process. And most importantly, students, this is your search. Parents, this is not by any means our way of saying that you should not be involved. You 100% need to be involved in this. But at the end of this, we have to remember that this is the student's search, and we want them to be engaged. So that's the most important piece of it, is that as a college admissions professional for several years, often when we would have visitors, the student was unengaged, had zero questions, and really often looked like they just didn't want to be there. The student has to engage in this process. When you go on a visit, they should be asking the questions. When you meet with people, they should be the ones talking to them, engaging with them. If you do everything for them, a lot of times the end result, they end up transferring or not happy. So it is very important that your student, your daughter, engages in this process from start to finish. Common data set. This is a big tool that I kind of want to share with you. Again, we'll go more in depth with this during College 201. But as you start to consider colleges, This is a big secret tool. The easiest way to explain this is as a coach. If you look at any sport, there's a playbook on what we need to do to win. It's no different for college admissions. There is a playbook on how you can get admitted to the college that you want to attend, and it's called Common Data Set. It's real data, and it's everything that you need, everything that the college wants in order to admit you. So let me show you some examples. This is at Notre Dame. They released this last year. They release this every year, every college does. And it tells you this is what is very important, what is considered and what is not considered on the college application. So the two most important things to Notre Dame are your character and your rigor of secondary school. Things that are important: class rank, academic GPA, application or essay, recommendations, interview, talent. If you're a first generation student, those are important. Things that are considered: standardized test scores. Again, this is a school that they'll consider it, but it's not one of the most important two things to them. Whether you have an alumni relation, your religious affiliation, work experience, or applicants' level of interest. Those don't matter. They're considered, but not super important. And they don't care about your geographical residence or state of residency. This is what they want to see on an application. And it differs from that of what Iowa is looking for. Iowa is looking solely at your test scores, your GPA, class rank, and the rigor of your secondary school. They don't really care about your essay or interview or extracurricular activities or many other things. The only thing they're looking for are those factors that they consider very important. Another example is Brown. Brown has many more categories that are very important. Recommendations. Your essay in this instance is very important. If we go back, both Notre Dame and Iowa didn't really consider your essay too much, but at Brown, it's one of the most important things that they're looking for. Extracurricular activities are also important here. So this is a school, if I want to get into Brown, I need to start thinking, how can I get involved? What are some things that I can do to stand out on my application so I'm a student that has something of substance there? Another example, put it a little bit differently, but KU, you'll see, very important is your GPA and many other things not considered. They are looking solely at your academics, and that is how they're going to decide if you're going to be admitted or not. So with that, I want to bring back up my video. And I just want to close things out again. These slides will be available without the recording over the top, if you would like them. I am here to answer any questions that you may have. I know that this was kind of quick, brief, just a run through of some of this information. I'm happy to have more in-depth conversations in a one-on-one setting. And please be on the lookout for College 201, which we do go much more into depth on pieces of this process. As always, though, I am honored to be able to work with you and your family. And if there are any questions that arise from this presentation or the College 201 or anything, do not hesitate to let me know. And I look forward to seeing you soon.